This is the Dealer Playbook Podcast, Episode 11, and our guest today will never stop and will never quit. Hustling. Let's do this.
You're dialed in to the Dealer Playbook Podcast, where it's all about winning auto dealer strategies that deliver proven results. And now your hosts, Robert Weissman and Michael Cirillo.
All right, everybody, what's going on? Michael Cirillo here and Robert Weissman with the Dealer Playbook. Dude, we are like busting these things out.
Having a blast, man. And the
so
best
fun.
thing is, you know, we're doing this to, to get some great information out and try to educate everybody as much as possible and think differently. But I'm loving just the free training that I've been getting out of these sessions.
know, right?
I mean, boy, we got these guys fooled, don't we?
Yeah, and here's the thing. I mean, I've just been, and I know you have too, just overwhelmed by the response that we're getting. I mean, people are taking pictures of themselves, listening to Dealer Playbook in their vehicles on their way to work, and just the feedback's been overwhelmingly positive. And so I just wanted to quickly give a shout out to everybody listening in. Thank you so much. It's been an incredible journey. Today is going to be an awesome episode because we've got David Bradley, who is the sales manager or one of the sales managers for Cardone Training Technologies. That's the online training module or program that Grant Cardone has put together. I've personally been involved with that with my team. We were subscribed to it, and it just did wonders for our sales abilities and just helping us grow our business. So I'm excited to have him. I've known David now for the last couple of years, and if there's one thing I have to say about him is he is a proof in the pudding hustler. Like he's the who's who of being in the trenches, closing deals and making things happen.
Yeah. I mean, this guy's definitely was a good car guy, and he was in the business for a while, and he's so smart, and like he's creative with his words and his delivery, and he's a real intelligent guy, and I think everybody's going to love this. It's a great follow-up to his old partner in crime, Jared Glant, from, again, the VP of sales for, I guess that would be his boss, VP of sales for Cardone Technologies, where he talked a lot about getting it down, getting the training schedule in, making it consistent, and just drilling it down. Dave's going to talk about that a little bit deeper. And this is the perfect follow-up to Jared's episode, which was like how to get started with training and the consistency. And this is like a good carry on from that, which is like, okay, now how do we do the people process thing? Yep. All right. So let's hop right to it, guys. Everybody enjoy David Bradley.
Okay, and guys, listen, I am, so excited to be here with our guest today, David Bradley, who's the sales and marketing manager for Cardone Training Technologies. David, thanks for being with us today.
Hey, I'm so glad I was able to get the time to come and hang out with you guys. It's an honor to be on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we first met a couple years ago at AutoCon 2012. That was the time that my company, Flex Dealer, signed up for Cardone University. And that was my first exposure to you being the hustler of all hustlers. And so, I couldn't imagine a better person to act as the follow-up to Jared Glant, who we had on a couple episodes ago. Jared spoke all about, volume of training and consistency in training and how to get started with training. But you as the hustler in the trenches, day after day, pounding the phones, working the deals, closing them, and as you like to call yourself, the what did you say, the gap closer?
That's right, the gap closer.
We couldn't think of having anybody better to act as the follow-up and really talk about today how we take the training and use it to build a winning team. And you've written an article about this. So I wanted to just turn it over to you and say, okay, great. Now we've got training. We know where we need to get our training from. We know what material to be looking into. How do I get started building a winning sales team inside the dealership?
Yeah, perfect. So I think if you go back to what I've nicknamed myself is like the gap closer. Grant talks a lot about closing the gap between what's real for you right now and then where your true potential lies. And whether we take that as in the micro, so in the macro. So if I'm taking a large dealership, we look at, hey, what's real for us right now? What kind of numbers are we putting up? What's our write-up ratio like as a store? What's our demo ratio like? What are we doing, right? But that's what's real for us. But we always know the potential is greater. And we talk about this with dealers all the time. It's like, hey, I'm not hitting it. I know I could do better. I want more. How do I get it? So my job is to literally come in here and help you guys as a dealership close that gap. And Grant has put together a formula, and Jared touched on this, which is some big filling Jared's shoes, picking up after him. That's just intimidating for me. Like, what am I, like, he touched on so much. That was such a solid call you guys did. Like, where do I pick up? So what I'm going to talk about today is literally that. Where do we go from here? So how do I take and create a winning and effective sales team now that we know that greatness doesn't come without training, that it's part of our culture, we've made that commitment, now what? So when Jared talked a lot about attitude, approach, and action, it's like, how do we take those three concepts and really plug it in? And so Grant put together a formula based on sales meetings, sales training, and then sales solutions. And then how do we put that in every day and really get our heads around those three specific concepts?
Right. So, I mean, what are you finding is the biggest struggle for dealerships who have committed to do the training, but not really knowing where the next steps are? I mean, what is the struggle there?
The biggest challenge is always going to be attitude. And it's the most important piece. If you looked at the attitude, approach, and action as a pyramid, it's the base, it's the foundation. If you don't have that, nothing's going to happen. And if you want to really put a number on that and quantify it, there have been studies done that will show you that a customer's perception of the deal, not just the dealership, but the actual product itself. Like if you sell Honda, they'll make a value decision about Honda based on the attitude of the people they deal with at the store.
Right.
Right. So it's almost a fiduciary responsibility of management to make sure that these guys show up to work today, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. And the thing we talk about in this article is that this is a sales team. And while everybody's out to take care of their family, nobody's going to work for somebody else's family. We're going to work for our family. We still need to function as a team. And I think if you look at some of the great coaches and you look at some of the great teams, whether that's Vince Lombardi or the Navy SEALs, these guys have meetings. Before a football team takes the field, they have a meeting. And in that meeting, they're not talking about who left the keys in stock number 870492. They're talking about getting jacked up today. We're talking about what are we here to do? What are our goals? And I remember listening to Tracy's call talking about how he makes sure that what these guys want is in front of them all the time. That's terrific. So like you got to make sure that your guys are here to work on time, because if you think about it, you've got a sales guy who hasn't sold a car in 6 days. He's already decided he'll never sell something ever again, right? He had a fight with his wife last night. Bills are due, right? Mm-hmm. He can't get to level 40 on Candy Crush. He's been listening to the news in the car on the way to work. The dude's crapped out. You don't want him taking it up right now, you know?
Okay, so let me ask you this. This sounds like it could be a daunting task for, the sales manager, general manager, dealer principal, whoever's running this team. I'm sure there's senior level executives inside the dealership who are listening to this right now going, holy crap, I'm not a motivator. How am I supposed to get my team jacked up when I can't get to the next level on Candy Crush Saga or I'm
and
sorry,
that's
I had
the truth
to throw that
right
in.
there. I mean, how are they going to get people that are themselves, how are unmotivated people that have no experience to motivate people, adapt to that challenge and accept that challenge and be accountable for that? I mean, how do they go about, starting there? Because that seems like the big starting point.
Yeah, totally. So for us, we've got, you had the Cardone University. We've got Cardone On Demand. That's one option. And I'm not going to go into a sales pitch here, but that is an option. And whether you use Grant's material or somebody else's material, you don't have to be the motivator. Nobody said, when you signed up for the gig that you got to turn into Tony Robbins or you got to be Matt Foley from Saturday Night Live. It's not your deal. That's not most managers came up because they were performers, not leaders. And so now you found yourself in this precarious position. How do I get these guys jacked up? Well, you take a program like Cardone On Demand, or you go to YouTube, or you crack open a book, or you just read something, put something in front of these guys that not only motivates you, but motivates them. And then we use this to have a guided discussion. So in our world, we'll watch a video from Cardone On Demand. We use that to stimulate a discussion. We do that in our office. So, Jared talked about how they role play, but before that, we have a meeting and we'll watch a segment. We have a discussion about it. We never start our day without talking about what we need to do to be successful.
No, and I think right there is a super nugget for anybody, for any and everybody that's in there at the dealership level, is that, instead of putting it all onto your sales manager, which I've never been into a sales meeting before that they did something like that. And you know what? It's easier. It gets you off the hook. If I'm a sales manager, like most sales managers, I'm looking for the easy way out. You know what I mean? And like most people are. So boom. Put that on. It's going to be more effective because the person if it's one that's inspiring you, obviously, it's a professional up there that's either a professional motivator, a professional trainer, etc., what have you. Boom. Take the weight off the shoulders of your people and put it on this content that's on demand, whether it's a paid service or, again, I mean, that's a great nugget there, Dave, on YouTube. I mean, that's, people miss the boat on that. Like, you could sit and do a sales meet every day, go in and take your team and do, the Cardone stuff is what, like most of them are between 2 to 5 minutes. So if you're not plugged into that or somebody else's version of that, boom, go to YouTube. It's nothing. And I'll tell you what, there's plenty of videos on YouTube that have jacked me up over the years, man, without a doubt.
Imagine if every day for 1 week, at a dealership, we just watched the Game of Inches speech that Pacino gives in any given Sunday.
There you go. There's that. There's I love the Rocky one from Rocky, like the 6, where he's like, it's not how hard you can hit, it's how hard you can get hit, and keep going. So boom, guys, right there, like that was worth it alone. Is just try that once a week. It costs you nothing. And I would go as far as saying that just in attitude alone, they still have to execute upon that with that great attitude, but at least it's going to deliver that. If not for, a good half an hour.
Yeah, and I'm almost hearing you say too, Dave, in what we're talking about here is that, part of getting your attitude straight and part of being who your team needs you to be as a leader means that you need to make the commitment. I mean, whether it's a book, whether it's the training videos, whether it's YouTube, you need to make a commitment as a leader to, make sure that your head is right, that you are in the game, that you're doing the things that you're expecting your team to do. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Absolutely. And if you take a look at some of the great leaders, and I mentioned Vince Lombardi, you take a look at Phil Jackson, you look at, or even some of these, Mark Devine, for example, I don't know if you've read anything by him, but he's a former Navy SEAL, business professional now. The guy is not this raw dude. None of those guys were. They weren't these guys jumping around talking about living in a van down by the river, and they certainly weren't going down the Tony Robbins road of just getting people pumped up for the sake of being pumped up. These guys have purpose. You look at Phil Jackson and you want to do something. It's just a look in his face. So you don't have to be that guy. You need to be a leader. You need to take charge. This is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. This is what I need from you. Go get them.
Right. So do you feel like, in your observation, when a team is trained, when they show that commitment, do you still find that there's a gap between their commitment and their knowledge now that they've been trained, and that and between maybe a fear to execute? Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like that's the second piece of the puzzle here. It's like, great, you have all this training. It's been consistent. We're jacked up, motivated, pumped up. But do you still find that there might be some sales reps out there that are fearful of executing on the knowledge that they receive?
Yeah, just because you're pumped up doesn't mean you know what you're doing. Grant will say, I think even a blind squirrel can get a nut. And so that, squirrels are active. They're energetic. They're bouncing all over the place. They're full of energy. They got the right attitude. But if the approach isn't there, then forget it. So Jared touched on this a little bit too, is that you got to have some consistent training in the dealership that happens daily. And that is the approach piece of the puzzle. So you've got your attitude. We're doing that with our daily meeting. And now we need an approach that we can do that is customer centric, that we can train on it daily, and that removes thought.
Okay. So what do you mean by removes thought?
Well, look, if I throw a football at you right now, or you're in Canada. So if I slap shot a hockey puck at you right now, okay, how much time do you have to respond?
Split second.
Right. So you need to know what to do about it. There's no room to decide. There's no room to think. You got to react. And if you take a look at leveraging your sales training with that same level to get your people to the level of knowingness that they don't have to think about it. In high school and college, I did a ton of theater. And if you get stuck on stage having to think about your line, you are so screwed it's not even funny.
Okay, so this is deep. This is deep because what we're talking about here is like subconscious competence. It's like,
right.
The first time somebody said, "Hey, tie your shoe," and you reach down and you realize you don't know how to tie your shoe, that's conscious incompetence. But then you start training and you start learning how to tie your shoelaces, and you become consciously, you're made aware. So it's like conscious incompetence to conscious competence, where you still have to think about it. But I mean, any of us now, if we said, "Hey, tie your shoes," we just know how to do it. We don't have to take any thought. It's subconscious competence. So you're saying, hey, train yourself. This is what I'm hearing you say. Train yourself to the degree that action becomes some subconscious competence. You just do it without thought.
Yeah, you should be able to handle an objection with as much ease as you drove to work today. Because it's Jared talked about this. We hear the same stuff every single day. When a customer says just looking, not buying today, whatever it is, there should be an immediate response. There shouldn't be any thought involved.
So is getting that into your team, okay, for dealers, managers, and whatnot out there that want to get their team ready and sharp. Okay, they need to do training, but is it more than playing the videos, reading out of a book, even sending them with material? When it comes to role playing, what is a good example? Because role playing is powerful, and I did it, with my girlfriend at the time on a nightly basis when I first started getting into, this business and was introduced to your material. Yeah.
Romantic.
Now she's not, and listen to this, she's not with me anymore. And now never was in the business ever, but now she runs a BDC department for a dealer group. Go figure. Just from it bouncing it off of me, bouncing it off her all night long. But bouncing. Training off of her all night long. Yes, exactly. So
role play. Yeah.
How can they easily do that? I think a lot of dealers, I've seen them talk about it, but I really don't think they know how to get their team together and do it. Okay, break off in the pairs, or let's do it all as a group. I mean, what have you seen from being in and out of dealers and within your organization, the way that type of prep training and preparing with role playing just works and rolls smoothly with big groups of people?
Yeah, so here's a simple example. You take an objection that gets in your way. You can, whether you use Grant's book, the Closer Survival Guide, you use our online program, you bust out our Close the Sale app, whatever it is that you do. And today in our training session, we're going to work on that. So we just talk about, hey, what's getting in the way? Well, it's the wife objection. Okay, so we're going to find a way to handle, let me talk to my wife. Or let me talk to my husband. We'll find a way to do that. And then we're going to split up into groups, and we're going to practice it until we're blue in the face. And then maybe later on in the day, a manager is going to roll up to Joe Salesman and say, hey, Joe, let me talk to my wife. And if Joe responds right away, pass. If not, flunk.
So it's just handle that particular objection. Don't continue with going through the sale after that. Just drill that initial response and don't be distracted with where you go with it after that. Is that what you're saying?
Totally, because then you start thinking, well, if he says this, then he does that. Let's just handle what's in front of us right now.
Good enough.
which is I need to talk to my wife. Okay, so I'm going to handle it. Before I worry about anything else, I'm going to get that out of the way.
Okay, so there you go. That says it, and that makes complete sense. So all you got to do out there with your stores is you go in and you take, even if you don't want to turn to your team for feedback, or they're shy, they're like, oh, I don't know, well, not much, well, this one, this. Well, just go through the lists of any seasoned vet can tell you what objections they hear on a daily basis anytime they engage with a customer, and then just go down the list, formulate the response, pair them up and together, and just keep it like the word of the day almost, but around the dealership, just always run into anybody, ask them about the objection, make sure they got that response cocked and ready.
We had a store that was really struggling on the phones, and so they found the one call that they thought was the biggest challenge. And every day in their meeting for 2 weeks, they practiced, drilled, and rehearsed and role played the exact same call for 2 weeks. The GM told me that like on the 8th day, salespeople started threatening to quit if they practiced it one more time. He says, nope, we're doing it for 2 weeks. If you blow out, you blow out, but we're doing this for 2 weeks. And at the end of the 2-week period, guess what?
That was not a factor.
Every call got better.
So it's like, hey, we've got people who are committed. They're training. Now we're learning some solid process. We're role playing. We're figuring out how to overcome these objections with subconscious competence. That's my word for the day. That's my phrase. There you go. But it's like doing that, like having these people, these committed people who are committed to training themselves, and then having, those people paired up with the right process. That kind of eliminates the numbers game in selling. I feel like we always think that selling is a numbers game, but it could be more just like having the right people and the right process, or having people with the right attitude.
It is. That's what it is about.
Yeah, to some degree, no matter how hard you try, it's going to be a numbers game. But at the same time, that doesn't excuse you from taking full responsibility and control for what those numbers look like.
And taking responsibility for your side of it. It's like, okay, there's nothing stopping that individual by pulling the wife card, but you can control how you respond to that individual. I feel like I remember, this could be a really harsh example, but I remember like listening to a Grant rant or something about being always in control. And he was talking about, hey, look, if I'm in a car accident, I want to be the one that caused it because I'm in control of the situation.
Yeah. And even if you didn't, take responsibility for it anyway. So if somebody crashed into you, it's my fault for being there.
Yeah, you could have took a shortcut. You could have drove a little faster, a little slower. You could have went another way. You could have just called in sick and broke the first rule and not even showed up.
Yeah. So it's like, hey, I can't control. It's guaranteed that I'm going to get objections today as I'm trying to pitch these vehicles or as I'm trying to present these vehicles. That's out of my control. Accept that, but also accept the fact that you are in control of how you respond to it and how you, like, what process you follow.
Yeah. One of my favorite words in the English language is responsibility. Because when you break that word in half, it's response ability. It's the ability to respond.
Boom.
Right? It's there you go. It's I think it's what separates man from beast, right?
The power nugget. Right there.
Totally. If Mama Bear doesn't choose, if you pick up Mama Bear's cub, she does not pause to figure out if you're going to eat that cub or not. She just destroys you. If you look at a human being, Mama, when you touch your kid, she'll take a moment. Is this person safe or not? And that, when we translate that into dealer speak, that's my instinct just told me that's a jack or a stroke. But now I get to decide what I'm going to do about that stimulus. I can act on that, give the guy my business card and go out back and have a cigarette, or I can handle just looking correctly and move this guy into my process.
Okay, so let me ask you this. You're the person, you've committed to training, you're doing it, you're executing, things are going well. What's the incentive to continue training? I know continued education is a big thing, but why? What's the incentive? What do we tell people? Or as a sales manager, what do I tell my team or do to my team or share with my team to keep them motivated to continue training?
Grant spends a lot of time talking about, he mentions the word why a lot, and why can dial into your customer, which is understanding why they're here today, but why also needs to apply to why you're here today. And everybody at home has a family, has, to some degree, they have goals, they have dreams. If you're a leadership or if you're a leader in the organization, you hire these people because you saw potential in them. And so we need to tune into what are they doing here. And one of the first things I learned from Grant, which blew me away, was you don't go to work for the dealership. You go to work for your dreams and your goals. And if you don't have those things, then you need to get those things. And whether you're in the car business for 1 week, 1 year, or 30 years, the moment you walk in the door or the moment you pop out of your car, you got to commit to that day to make that the best day you can possibly make it. And you got to commit to that for a purpose that's bigger than you.
Deep.
So, Grant will talk a lot about the acceptance of average, which I think is incredibly dangerous. If you look at another great team, I'll bring it up all day long, the Navy SEALs, they train not to train for the sake of training because it's the right thing to do. They train for a mission.
Right.
And they train to execute on that mission. And so as a leader in a group, I want to know what my salesperson's mission is. I need 20 cars this month because I need a bigger house, because I want to have a boat, because whatever it may be that gets him jacked up, we need to make sure that they're training for a mission, not because we're supposed to.
So it's really in the best interest of a sales manager to know we'll call it the why statement of each team member.
Yeah. Why do you want to be here? And then why are you not where you're at right now? And one of the things that can be very effective with sales training is to make it very specific to that individual. We get consistency in the store, and while one day we're working on the wife objection, if salesman Billy doesn't need help with the wife objection, I need to make sure that I'm helping him with what he needs help with. Maybe he's got that down, So,
both of you, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but you started out in a dealership, correct?
Yeah.
And Robert, we all know Robert's been inside the dealership. From both of your combined experience, how often are top-level execs at the dealership invested in actually knowing what your reason why for coming to work is?
Nothing I've ever seen.
It's pretty rare. I think in the almost 10 years that I was on the dealer level, I saw maybe one manager that really pushed and took you under a wing and made you, wanted to see you succeed legitimately.
So, the big value play here is for sales managers listening, general managers, general sales managers, whoever, dealer principals. If you're sitting there and you can even remotely relate to, gosh, how do I get my team motivated, going, or whatever? Here's your power play is sit down with each of them and find out, what their goals, dreams, and ambitions are, and then figure out how you can play into that.
Yeah, because if you have a one-on-one coaching session with a salesman where not only do you talk about what do you want to have in your world and what do you want your life to be like in 10 years? But then we start looking at what's standing in the way of making that happen right now. And we bring that down to today. Like it's the 24th of the month and your write-up ratio is only at 40% because you've had 100 ups and you've only demoed 20.
Right.
Well, if that's the case right now, why is it? And you want to have this 3-bedroom house because you're breeding faster than your income. You need, right? We need to get your write-up ratio up, man, which means you got to be driving more people. So here's some things that you can work on to make sure that you're putting more people on a drive and that you're bringing them inside to look at numbers.
Right. Cool. So, and I'm going to link to it here in the show notes, but we've kind of used an article that you've written as a guide here. And something that popped out to me was you say success is a skill. What do you mean by that?
Well, if you take a guy like Michael Jordan, for example, right? Here's a dude that flies, right? Literally flies, okay?
Right.
That guy, though, had some talent, But what he also had was some mad skill.
Yeah. The talent God gives you, the skill you got to go out and get yourself.
Yeah. The people that we see that are the most amazing people, and whether it's Jordan on the court, Pacino on the screen, Grant in a seminar, whoever it is, these guys do not get there. There's no such thing as an overnight success. There's no such thing as just being born that way. You bust your ass to get like that. That's not something that just pops up. There's no pill for that. That's work.
Without a doubt. And that's the thing. I mean, to investing dealerships, the more they invest in their team, and I'm not saying just investing capital into them. I just mean invest in their education, invest in knowing them, knowing what drives them. It could get you some low hanging fruit that's not there right now. And that's what I think, something so easy. Like, look, here, instead of having your sales manager, whoever, lead the meeting for a week, just do like Dave said, play a YouTube clip of something that jumps out to you, that's relevant to your team and you think might have the same effect on them that it did you, and see what could happen, because it's not going to hurt. But chances are, if it moved you, it might move them, and that'll help at least grab some low-hanging fruit just from their great attitude. Because, Grant talked about it, how many people have even witnessed it and done it. How many times have you bought something off of somebody and they didn't even seem completely razor sharp about the product or whatever, but their attitude was just, a dime, we all do.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting too. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it kind of reminded me of my early experiences in the car business. And Tracy Myers talked on a little bit where you just didn't quite get, you got some stuff and you got a pat on the butt and good luck, kid, and go get them and don't let them leave. You get that thing. But what I found was really interesting was that when I looked at the demographics of management and leaders at the first dealership I worked at, there was two managers, and manager A, manager B. Manager A would see a salesperson and be like, that dude can do it. There's greatness in him, and I'm going to help him get it out. Different manager, same salesman would be like, he's a weak suck. And in the same vein that we've all as salespeople decided that customer was a stroke, we didn't bother to up the guy. The guy that did up him, laid him away and made like a $1,500 commission on him. We learned that lesson, but I think management sometimes can fall into the very same trap of doing that with salespeople.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. That's a guarantee. You can't judge the book by its cover. You know what I mean? And you just got to empower your people, believe in your people, get behind them.
Yeah, you want to expect greatness, then you have to believe that there's greatness in them already, and then we just put a plan in place to pull it out.
Dude, David, thank you so much. I'm going to wind this thing down. You've dropped some serious power bombs on us today, which, listen, if the people listening in don't see the value in what you've shared with us, I don't know what will, because that was extremely powerful. Tell me, how do we get a hold of you? How do we get in touch with you? How do we follow you?
Okay, so I'm on Twitter. It's the @StopDon'tQuitCom.
Okay, hold on. Why? Why is it @StopDon'tQuitCom? Tell me about that real quick.
Okay, so yeah, the short history of that is Grant did a social media contest right before I started working here. In fact, that contest was what led me to come work for Grant. But I didn't have a Twitter account at that point. But what I did have was a self-published book on how to stop smoking. It's called How to Stop Smoking Without Killing Anyone. And as Grant was driving this contest, he said, hey, promote, what you've done, promote yourself. So when I joined Twitter, Stop Don't Quit, that's my website. So for the book, it's www.stopdon'tquit.com. So I said, I'm going to make that my Twitter handle. So that's how it is. Cool. That's how it's my Twitter handle.
And we'll link to that in the show notes for everybody. How else can we get a hold of you?
David@grantcardone.com is my email address. And then my bat phone at the office is 310-777-0352.
Oh, and everybody, please note that David is not on Eastern Standard. He is still on Pacific time. So he's 3 hours behind.
You had to throw that in.
I couldn't resist the last man standing out west. They had packed up and head east, and Dave is left to hold down the entire West Coast. Good for you,
Dave.
I
went into work, and the whole place was cleaned out. They didn't even leave me a note.
It's not like the movie The Office, though, right? Like you actually still do work there.
Oh yeah, wait.
Yeah.
Wait, I need to wait. Let me do some confirmation before we put this thing live, man. This could be a hoax.
Love it. David, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks a million, brother. I appreciate it.
So great to be here. Thank you, guys.
Wow, that was incredible. I mean, that guy dropped some power bombs on everyone who is listening.
Power bomb. Great classic WWE executed move. Yeah, and I mean, as I was saying after we wrapped up the call, something like those YouTube videos, and I just don't think that a lot of people that'll get the value. Yes, a lot of you are like, well, duh. You know, how many of you don't? You know, the real hustlers and go-getters, they're banging those videos out on a regular basis, taking advantage of any free content they can get. But a lot of you are not, and I highly suggest you do that because again, that's low-hanging fruit that will cost you nothing, and for sure, at least will improve attitude of the team there, without a doubt.
Like you said, it's so obvious. YouTube. I mean, you're sitting on YouTube anyways 9 times out of 10.
Yes.
And, you know, you even see them on Facebook. You're scrolling through your news feed and somebody's posted something that's inspiring, motivational. And so I love the fact that that's just something that's so accessible that doesn't cost any money for you to get in. And, you know, if you're feeling motivated 9 times out of 10 just through common sense, you know that showing it to somebody else will get them motivated as well.
Exactly. And guys, David, I mean, we had him on here because he is, you know, I've known David for a long time now, and he is razor sharp and he is open to talk anytime. He dropped his email in there. It will be in the show notes. He'll help you even build kind of like a training strategy for your organization. And he's not going to sit there and just try to hard close you on his products or anything like that. Great guy, really knows what he's talking about. So definitely take the time to connect with him if there's any way you feel that he can help your organization, please. So Michael, I mean, I had a blast with that. We're so grateful for everybody that takes the time to let us, you know, into your headphones, into your car, wherever you listen to us at. We are appreciating the love more than you can know.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, check us out. Subscribe on iTunes. We've been blasting new and noteworthy on iTunes. It's been incredible, but we're on Stitcher Radio as well. And don't forget to check out our website, thedealerplaybook.com. You can listen to the episodes there. Check out the show notes from today's episode, where there will be links to the article that we were referencing. And we'll also throw in a link there to David's book so that you guys can check that out. But leave us your feedback. Leave us some suggestions for future episodes. We love that kind of stuff. Talk to you later.
All right, everybody. Peace.